Happy Monday, guys. So we are coming to a close on math, and today we are going to talk about lesson 94. So this week you will see a turn of events with math because we're going to do lesson 94 through 96, and then we are going to skip to lesson 99 on Friday. So we are coming to the end finally. So lesson 94 is on page 488 of your math book, and this is review. It's just a different way of showing you how to do it. So we are going to be learning how to write fractions and decimals as percents. And this I will come back to here in just a second. But for now, let's talk about the way you originally learned how to do this. And this hopefully looks familiar to you. So if you want to change 3/5 into a percent, one way that I taught you was that you would divide 3 by 5, because remember the top number is the dividend and the bottom number is the divisor. So obviously we know 5 cannot be divided into 3 cannot be divided by 5. So we are going to add a decimal and a 0 and change that to 30. So 30 divided by 5 is 6, because you move your decimal straight up, so it's 0.6. And then we end with no remainder. So that's how you change a fraction into a decimal, but it's not asking us to do that. It's asking us to change it into a percent. So then this is where one of these little sayings comes into play. If you are moving a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal to the right 2 times, always 2 times. So decimal to percent, move right. And I think I taught you this at the beginning of the year, but this was a little sentence that my group from last year came up with. Don't pee on rainbows. So D-P-R. Decimal to percent, right. So then that means that I'm going to take this decimal and I'm going to move it 2 times to the right. So I have that open spot there that I would put a 0. So then my answer would be 60%. So 3/5 equals 60%. So that is one way that you learned already. Another way that you've learned is if you are taking a percent and changing it to a decimal, then you would put the percent over 100, always over 100, and then you can reduce that down. So you can cross out some of the zeros. So 4/10 reduces to 2/5. So that's the fraction version of it, but then you would need to divide 2 by 5. And when you do that, obviously we know 5 cannot go into 2, so you have to add a decimal and a 0. So 20 divided by 5 gives you 4, because that decimal just moves straight up into the answer. So then 40% equals 0.4. Or you can think of it this way, and this is where that second little sentence comes into play. If you are going from a percent to a decimal, you move left. So percent, decimal, left. And again, this is one of those funny little sentences. Put down leprechauns that my last year's group came up with. Percent, decimal, left. So the percent was 40%. But I don't have a decimal there already, so I'm going to add one at the end of the 40. And I'm going to move it 2 times over to the left. So then now my decimal is technically right there. So if I take away the percent sign, what I have is 0.40. And I can get rid of that 0 at the end. I don't need it. If you wanted to keep it there, you could. So 40% as a decimal gives me 0.4, which is what I got up here. Now, those are the ways that you've learned previously, but I'm actually going to teach you a new way to do this, and you might like this way better. If you absolutely hate this way, then that is perfectly fine. You can do it the previous ways that you've been taught. So the new way in this lesson is, if you take 3/5 and you want to put it into a percent, this is what you do. So 3/5 and you multiply it by 100% over 1. So 3/5 times 100% over 1. So 3 times 100 is 300% now, and 5 times 1 is 5. Then you go on to divide 300 by 5. Just like that. And guess what? I get 60%. So with this way, I don't have to worry about any decimals. I don't have to worry about moving decimals. I automatically get my answer, 60%. So in my opinion, I think that might be an easier way, but if you don't like it, then that's perfectly fine. And then if you wanted to change it into a decimal, then you could take that 60%, move the fake decimal over 2 times to the left. So then you are left with 0.60, and then you could get rid of that last 0 there and end up with 0.6 if you wanted that. It would just depend on if the question was asking you for a percent or a decimal. Okay, the next example that I'm going to show you is how to take a decimal and move it to a percent. And in my opinion, this is even easier. So let's pretend that you have 1.20 that you want to, actually let's just say 1.2, and you want to change that into a percent. So you are going to multiply that by 100, and you can kind of see where I did that there. Now this is the shortcut. If you wanted to go ahead and multiply this completely out and do it the long way, like right here, you can, and you would get your correct answer. Or you can do it the short way, and this I taught you a long time ago, but if 100 has 2 zeros in it, then you move that decimal over 2 times to the right, which is what I did here. And you add a 0 there at the end. And the beauty of this is it's no longer 1.20, it is 120, because that decimal essentially goes away. So then your answer is 120%. And that's what I explained right here. So 100 has 2 zeros in it, therefore you can move the decimal over 2 times to the right. Okay, and that will save you a lot of math rather than doing it this long way right here. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at some examples together just to make sure we're in the clear. So right here, 1/3 is a percent. So I'm going to do it the new way. So 1/3 times 100% over 1. So 1 times 100 is, of course, 100. And I'm just putting my percent signs there just so I remember to put that in my answer. So 3 times 1 is 3. And then you're going to divide 100% by 3. So 3 cannot go into 1, but 3 can go into 10 3 times. Get 9. And you probably see a pattern here. So the way that I would write my answer is I would actually just stop doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't add any zeros or anything. And I would write my remainder as a fraction. So 33 and 1/3%. And that would be my answer. Okay, so again, 33 and 1/3%. Okay, let's do the next one. So 2 and 1/4%. So before I do this new way, I have to actually change this into an improper fraction. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So it's 9/4. Now I can multiply it by 100% over 1. So I get 900% over 4, because 9 times 100 is 900. 4 times 1 is 4. And then I'm going to divide that. So 900 divided by 4. So 4 goes into 9 2 times. 4 goes into 10 2 times. And then 4 goes into 20 5 times. And then I just put my percent sign up here at the top. And that's my answer. Okay, the next one is going to be 0.625, and I want to change that into a percent. So if you remember, all I have to do is multiply that decimal by 100. And like I said, you can do this the long way if you really want to, or you can do it the short way, which is what I prefer. And I know that there's 2 zeros in 100, so that means that I'm going to move my decimal 2 times to the right. So my decimal is going to be between the 2 and the 5 now. So my answer, because I'm going to get rid of that 0 up front, I don't need it, is 62.5. And a good way to remember this is if you are multiplying a decimal by 100, then your answer has to be bigger than the original decimal number. So 62.5 is bigger than 0.625. And when you multiply, it needs to be bigger. So my answer is 62.5. Okay, the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. 0.025 times 100. And again, you can do this the long way if you really like it. But I know that there's 2 zeros in 100, so that means that I'm going to move my decimal over 2 times to the right. So my decimal is going to be between the 2 and the 5 now, which means I don't need these zeros up front anymore. So my answer is 2.5. And last but not least, this is a mixed number, and I'm changing it to a percent, so that means that I need to change this into an improper fraction first. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, so it's going to be 4/3. And then I'm going to multiply that by 100% over 1. So 4 times 100 equals 400%. And then 3 times 1 is 3. And then I'm going to divide 400 by 3. So 3 can go into 4 one time. I'm left with 1. 3 can go into 10 3 times. I'm still left with 1. And then 3 can go into 10 3 times again. And I'm still left with 1. Now, because I've ran out of zeros here, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead, and I'm going to write my remainder as a fraction. So it's going to be 133 and 1/3. Okay, that's where I got it from, 1/3%. And that is my answer. And that will conclude today's notes for lesson 94. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. And have a great day, guys.